Are you here? To be here is to be present. And the interview you're about to hear features a guy who's about as present as is possible. On this episode of the Paul Leslie Hour, it's a pleasure to present an interview with Sailor Boy Records and Sailor Boy Publishing performing and recording artist Gene Mitchell. A lot of people make tropical-inspired music. Well, Gene Mitchell is one of them, and a one-of-a-kind talent, and a joyful guy, too. You may recall the on-air beer tasting Gene did with host Paul Leslie. Well, what you're about to hear is the time when Gene Mitchell, the big coconut himself, called into Paul's radio show. Now, this was an old-school show, so Gene and Paul would chat a bit, then they'd spin one of Gene's songs. Now, get this, Gene would stay on the phone while the song played, and then when the tune was finished, Gene was still there, and they'd talk some more. Novel concept, huh? Well, what we have for you today is the talking part of that show, and we're putting it out there for you all. All the episodes we release get distributed on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and of course, YouTube. The YouTube channel's growing like crazy, thank you very much, probably because of all the great content we've been releasing there. You know, we just surpassed 3,000 subscribers. And you know, it's free to subscribe. And when you're there to subscribe, don't forget to ding ding, ring that bell. Well, I think it'd be worthwhile that we all listen to this one. You ready? Gene Mitchell should never be kept waiting. Let's hear what Gene has to say.
Well, another aloha to Gene Mitchell. He has come back to our Radio Tiki Hut. So we want to welcome back one of our favorite artists and most played artists on Time After Island Time, Gene Mitchell.
How you doing, Paul?
I'm doing wonderful. It's good to speak to you. It's been a while.
It has. Good to speak to you again.
Are you drinking Landshark Lager still?
I am drinking Landshark Lager. How'd you know that?
I just had a feeling that you were hooked.
Oh, yes. Well, you know, it's great beer. I tried it, and it's really smooth. It's got a good flavor. It's not tart or hard like a lot of the Mexican beers or the tropical beers you get. It's a good American beer made by Budweiser, and it's just a really smooth beer. It's very tasty. It's got a great aftertaste, too. I mean, it's not leaving anything that I have to wash it down. I don't have to have any rum and Coca-Cola or a shot of tequila after this stuff. It's really good.
So I think we should start from the beginning, and I've often wondered if maybe, or I've wondered a lot about listening to some of your songs, where you got the inspiration for different songs, and today we're going to do it. Be able to find out a little bit about your history. So first of all, where were you born, Gene?
I was born in Brunswick, Georgia, and that's between Savannah, Georgia, and Jacksonville, Florida. So kind of close to the Florida line, but it's a harbor town. A lot of shrimping going on, and there's a fort there. But I was raised on the river. My granddad had a place on the river, and we caught shrimp. Didn't have a shrimping boat. He worked at a chemical mill, but I was raised around that atmosphere, and a lot of people say Georgia. They do think of Atlanta or cotton or peanuts, and living on the coast and being raised on the coast, especially right above the Florida line, which is much different atmosphere. That's why I was born and raised.
And you still make it up to Atlanta sometimes, I thought.
My youngest brother actually was an engineer, and he works up in Atlanta. And I've been up Thanksgiving before last, and then he got married last spring, and he asked me to go up and play his wedding, so I played over at Cheeseburger Paradise, I think on Saturday night after his wedding, and then Sunday afternoon, which happened to be Mother's Day last year. So I got up there. That's the last time I went up. Actually, I found out he was leaving on a cruise the next day, and so were my wife and I, but we were actually going on two different ones, but we missed each other in Nassau by one day. And I said, if you hadn't told me that, I'd have saw you in Nassau on your honeymoon. That would have been a surprise. But yeah, I get up. I probably get up at least once a year, sometimes twice a year.
And I heard that you rocked the house at Cheeseburger. That's what the bartenders were saying.
Yeah, well, I didn't hear that, but my brother did. I know that it was like 120 And little did I know I was supposed to stop at 12. The place was packed. And, of course, I did, the Jimmy Buffett and Island songs, some of mine. But, as the younger kids started coming in, I say younger, but, kids that grew up with music in the 80s and the 90s, I switched to that. I can play a lot of songs. And, I was doing the John Cougar and the R.E.M. And I was, so I was just kind of reading their age as they came in the door, what they were like. And, and it was a nonstop party. It was. We went till 1:20, and actually I quit because I was just dead tired. I think I went back at 11 and played right straight through till 1:20. So, and I didn't, but my brother had said something about either the bartender or one of the waiters had said it was a good night for them, and they really hadn't played that late before. But and it's about playing the right song at the right time. It really is. And I guess the business aspect of it is how much the cash register rings too, because if it rings more the night you're there than the guy last week, you'll probably be back next week. And the way to do that is to play the right song at the right time, and just play great songs that people are familiar with. And people always ask me what I play, and though I play in right tropical rock, I just tell them basically I'm playing classic top 40, and that could be from last year all the way back to the 60s or 50s. But most of the songs were basically they were top 10 hits. And if it's a top 10 hit, it usually lasts forever. It lasts for decades. People know the song.
So what did you listen to growing up in Brunswick?
In Brunswick, I listened to, probably the first music I was exposed to was my mother and her sister. Of course, they listened to 50s and early 60s, but my uncle was only 12 years older than me. And I remember every Beatle album he bought as they came out. And when I'd be over at my granddad's, I was only 4 or 5 years old, we'd actually listen to them just over and over until I knew all the words. But I played piano at age 6, had to take lessons. That was my birthday present. Everybody had to play piano. And at age 10, I actually switched to drums, because I was in the band at school. And I played those all the way through my senior year. In fact, I was state drummer in Georgia in my junior year and the drum major. But then things changed. I was listening to the rock and roll, and playing everything. We were heavy into Grand Funk Railroad and some of the newer Kiss stuff because they were basically coming out. But whenever I switched to guitar, my first things I was playing was America and Neil Young, Loggins and Messina, because that was real popular. But I'll say that probably I'm more influenced. I didn't buy my first Jimmy Buffett record until 1996. And my big influences was with that kind of jazz chord played with pop rhythms is what America was using. And not Neil Young, but America was. But when I lived in Hawaii from 78 to 80, Cecilio Capono and Adito Kalapana and the Beamer Brothers, they were all using it. And, I remember learning all those songs that those guys were playing. And they were on the radio, and some of them were signed with Columbia, but that was real popular. Hawaii had an entirely different top 40, so to speak. And that has probably influenced my music. I hear it. I was listening to some radio the other day and heard Cecilio Capono, and I went to Amazon.com and bought 2 of the albums that I had years ago. And, I realized, wow, a lot of those chords and a lot of that groove they had, that's in my music even to this day. So I'm sure that heavily influenced.
So how did you make the leap from being a music fan to being a musician yourself?
A musician is not what I am. It's who I am. What I am. It's since I was 4. I had to be singing. I learned the songs on the radio. I had the hairbrush entertaining my grandmother and her friends, singing along with the records, singing along with the radio. But I would say probably by when I got my first drum set at age 15, there was no doubt I was going to be a musician. And I was playing in clubs in my senior year. And then I just got really heavy into it. Actually, when I joined the Navy, back in 77, disco hit. They wouldn't hire bands, they hired DJs. And so I started playing solo and playing the guitar. I already knew how to sing the songs. And I started playing guitar and doing happy hours. And Navy recruiter came in and said, "You used to be playing on the beaches of Waikiki." I said, "Tell me more." And about 6 months later, I was playing in the clubs in Waikiki, still in the Navy, but So I started doing some writing there, and in fact, on my second CD, I put out 98. There's a song on there, copyrighted in 79, that song Caledonia that I wrote when I was down in the South Pacific. So I was actually cruising the South Pacific in Hawaii, and I think right before I left, Jimmy had come out with Margaritaville in 77, and I was familiar with the song, so we never played the song, because by then disco, was heavy, and and some of the country clubs that I would sit in with the country band, they were playing it right before I joined in 80. But when I got to Hawaii, it was all the Hawaiian guys. And so I kind of missed all those years. And it wasn't until 95, I was living in L.A., and I took a lyric writing course from UCLA, and had taken a lot of music courses in college. And I had written a song, and Norman Sleet, who was a friend of mine, he had written Air Supply's only #1 hit and Kiss for Selena. And he suggested I send a certain song to Jimmy Buffett. And I asked, "Is this guy still playing?" He goes, "Oh, yeah, he puts out an album every year." So I actually sent him out past the reef, but Mike actually called first. Norman gave me the number. And I think Jimmy was with MCA at the time. And I called, and they just signed him Mike. I'd imagine him, or let's answer the phone. He asked me who I was, and I told him who Norman was, and he knew him. And he said, "Well, send the song in." Well, actually, Mike Utley called me back and said, "Hey, this is a great song, but, the next album's more eclectic." Well, now, I'm trying to be a songwriter at the time. That's all. And now I've got a call back from a member of the band, so I started actually behind the Jimmy Buffett record and kind of listening and writing songs that I might could pitch to him. And I was working with Norm at the time. We were writing songs. And basically, we got, I had all these songs that I was using. Rick Cathaway, who had played with the Osmond family the whole time, and the Osmond brothers, and Troy King, who worked for Warner Brothers, who produced it. So, Norman said, "You're not writing demos. You're writing an album. Why don't you put out one yourself?" I said, "Where am I going to sell them?" He said, "Well, there's a place called Amazon.com. You play the Wharf every Saturday and Sunday." So I had all these kind of a mix of kind of country songs, and like that's the first album with Rum and Coca-Cola and Caribbean Cowboy. And so I never sent them back to Jimmy. I put out the CD, and then somebody had to buy one at Fisherman's Wharf. They were the editor of a magazine, voting magazine called The Log, that goes from San Francisco to San Diego, and they did a half-page article on me, and all of a sudden people are buying them. And I said, "Hey, this works really well." So I just started writing songs, and that's why I called it Caribbean Cowboy, actually, because I said I've got all these country songs and these Caribbean songs. So then I wrote a song called Caribbean Cowboy and called it Caribbean Cowboy. And that's why that album came into being. And then a lot of the Parrot Heads started buying the record. And so therefore I said, well, let me see what this is. I actually bought Fruitcakes, was the first CD I bought. And then I bought Jimmy's CDs backwards over the next 4 or 5 months. I just bought backwards as he put them out. And I said, well, I'm not as country as he is, but he's got a lot of nice styles on here. But basically he's just selling a vacation. He did the Caribbean, and so I just sat down and I wrote Big Coconut, got Gary Gibson to play the steel drums, and just ripped out an album that was nothing but basically Parrot Head friendly. I was living in Seattle, and I wanted to get back to my roots, which were kind of jazzy, and so I did the album Tropical Jazz, and I featured Amy Lee, Jimmy Buffett's saxophone player, and John Raymond, who's Kenny G's guitar player, because I promoted featuring the guitar player from the #1 tropical band, whose leader plays guitar and guitarist, or saxophone player for the #1 tropical band, whose leader plays guitar, and that was Jimmy, and guitarist for the nation's #1 jazz band, whose leader plays saxophone. That's how I promoted it. And, so it was, and I went back to that, and I could tell in the writing of those songs, living in Seattle, I was really longing to come back to the Southeast and to the beach. And you can hear it in the songs, because I'm talking about, I need to go. I got to get back by the beach. I got to live down by the beach. I got to get back. And as well as some smooth jazz and some blues on there. And, I recall when I put out Down Island Way, which Jeff actually sang on the title track with me too. He thought that was a great album. And it's because I had finally arrived in Florida. I was where I wanted to be, and you could just hear it in the music. And Jeff commented at the time that it was one of the best CDs I put out. Now, I don't know if that's because he sang on it or he really thought so. But I took that as a compliment, because on that album, I just moved to Florida, and I really didn't have access to a lot of good musicians yet. And so actually, I I had Gary, who's a steel drum player, but he's got a master's degree in percussion. He played the drums, piano, and steel drums, and all the percussion. And I did guitar, acoustic, and electric, and played the bass and did all the vocals on all the songs except the Down Island Witch song. So as you can see, in the album, I'm just happy to be in Florida. So happy that I did the next album, which was called Greetings from Florida. And that album, I highlighted all the places in Florida and how nice it was to live here. And I always felt that was my most, not the worst of my albums, but that's the one I didn't like as well as the others, because really I was doing it as a way to get my foot in the door to Florida, show people that I could write about Florida. And of course, I put out one more album after that, but that album is what got me the gig at the Capital One Bowl and playing for 17 million people, because the guy did a search. He's from Florida, and he did a search, vacation, and I got 2 albums by that name, and my name came up. And we opened the show at Capital One Bowl with Greetings from Florida, and the second song was Vacation. Then we did a couple more. So, you never know who's listening. You just got to get the music out there. And, I appreciate so much so many people buying the CDs, because it allows me to keep putting out more. And I try to outdo myself every time. Write something a little different, but the same. Just, so you don't just get a rehash of the same old stuff. Like on the last album, it's, a little bit of the California or the Carolina shag and the Florida beat bop sound, while still having some reggae and some calypso and, that jazzy style that I've got. So something new.
So I was just wondering, out there, there's quite a few people that are doing this kind of tropical kind of sound. Who out there would you have to say is one of the especially good ones? And you can say yourself. I don't consider that.
No. I hear a lot on the radio in the pop rock vein of independent artists. I hear a lot, and I think that and you know what? I think there's a market for it. Jimmy's albums, he keeps putting them out, and Jimmy's being a little bit more reflective. Growing older, looking back on life, and you've got so many independent artists that are doing kind of what he did in the beginning, writing from the trenches. They're talking about being in a little tiki bar, not flying the airplane around the world. They're still in the tiki bar, meeting the average folks. And I think that's the deal with the independent artists, that they're down in the trenches. They may be riding in the wake. And I have to say, Jimmy is influential to music. If you take the biggies in music, you've got Elvis Presley. You've got Chuck Berry. Chuck Berry's rock and roll. Elvis Presley, was more of the pop. He had it all during the 70s. I mean, the great showman as well as rock and roll. You have Ray Charles. I'm not going to mention all these guys from the South either. But you've got the best music. And I think, I wish Jimmy a long, long life, but I can tell you that his music's going to stand, and it's probably going to be far more popular than he ever dreamed of, when he's finally in the history books. And I can see there'll be as many impersonating Jimmy Buffett as there are Elvis impersonators. It'll be that, So I'd say, Jimmy's, of course, the number one. But I'll tell you, as far as when I listen, I hear a lot of Jeff Pike is probably going to agree with me on this. You got anybody out there that can make a CD now. They got the home recorders, and you can make a fairly decent one. Now, what I hear is just, almost like the first thing that rhymed in their head. I hear a lot out there that basically people can't sing, but they put it out. It's a good song. If you listen to some of the 60s and 70s all by themselves, really the singer may not have been, he can carry a tune. It's not I don't want to listen to them for 4 hours, but it's just such a great song. But I'll tell you who I personally think, and I'll say that I think these guys are the best, and I do it because of the lyric writing, their voice, and their production, the way they present the song, and the musicianship. And probably first, I really like Sonny Jim's writing.
I knew you were going to say that. I don't know how I knew.
Right now, Kelly McGuire, that Boat and Belize album, it just blew my socks off. It was a good album, well produced. and he's using a lot of the guys from Jimmy Buffett's band. So basically, when it started, it sounds like Jimmy Buffett's band because he's using about 4 to 5 players. But Kelly's just got a very pleasant voice. I know he took a break from the Red Pig Island when and did a straightforward country album. But I could tell on that third album he was right back where he belonged, doing the trot rock, and and Jim Morris. When I first heard it, I was like, well, Jim's living the life of drinking, and he's writing those songs. But Jim Morris is really a good writer. He really is, and I'll tell you, I would classify him. He's kind of the Ray Charles of the trot rock. Ray Charles. Everybody thought he was just singing these silly songs. But he just had so many hits, and then all of a sudden, and Ray Stevens too. Not Ray Charles, Ray Stevens. I mean, the comedian.
Yeah,
he's kind of the Ray Stevens. The Street and that kind of stuff. He writes some very clever, funny songs that appeal. And each of us, and Sonny Jim, he lived in the Caymans for a while. He's got that soccer sound down. Just very clever songs he's written. But and I look and I said, each of us have lived different lives, and Jim Morris is from Georgia, and we're all about the same age, and we just live different lives, and it reflects in our songs, but it all comes together, that mutual bond of loving the tropics. Jim loves to fish, and Sonny Jim, he loves the beach. I love the beach, and we all love the beach, and we all love the water, and we all love the trot rock. I really haven't. A lot of guys used to swap me CDs, and I've had a few of them. But when I say I'm really impressed with someone, that means I will play their CD more than once.
Yeah.
Listen to it. And when I have taught songwriting, I always say, a song is only as good as your worst lyric line in the song. And an album is only as good as your worst song. If you put one bad song on that album, the whole album's bad now. It really is, because you can't have somebody skipping tracks. If something that you don't like, skip it. And another thing, you can't put a disclaimer on this. Say, I know that the guitar, or I know the drumming is really bad on this, but he's a good buddy of mine. You can't do that. I hear a lot of that, but Kelly McGuire, Sonny Jim White, and Jim Morris, they're consistent, and both of those guys have really, from what I've heard over the last few years, both of those guys have really taken a big step forward by getting band members to back them up. A lot of the computer music was being done with Sonny Jim because of being in the Cayman Islands. I'm sure that was easier, and Jim. Sonny Jim, I noticed a lot of his songs were a little bit longer. I'm thinking, okay, but then I thought, well, you know what? When he was writing that, he was playing live every night, and he's writing for people to dance. And that's why, because, you don't want to dance to a 2.5-minute song. You just got going. And I can see the change in his writing, and Jim Morris, since they've been playing with other musicians, and, they got a band backing them up, and, that's a great thing to play with real musicians, and just have that creativity that you can draw from everyone, and I see it. And of course now, if A1A would send me an album or something, I could probably say something about them, but I haven't heard. I did hear a song on the radio, and it said A1A, and I could tell it was Jeff singing, because I tell you, Jeff has got a great voice. He gave me a couple of CDs of his that he did solo. He's got a great voice. Of course, when he's singing the trot rock, he's giving that a different edge. But this song that I heard, I forget, it was kind of a smooth song, but I could tell it was Jeff singing, and it was a very smooth, very well written song. That's all I've heard. So I'll give him that. I'll give Jeff that plug there. But if he sends me up that album, I might can say more next time.
Yeah, I've had kind of the same impression that you did, and I would have to put Sonny Jim, Kelly McGuire, and when I first started writing and doing the radio shows and stuff, it was really Jeff that turned me on to your music. On his website, the link to you says, out of all the people doing island music, I'd have to say Gene Mitchell is the cream of the crop. And I have to say, I get sent a lot of CDs. Your CDs do stand up because you don't skip any songs.
Yeah, and I of course, it takes me 2.5 years to put out an album. I don't put one out every year. But I do. I start a lot of songs that I don't finish because I just say, well, it's fun, but it's not going anywhere. And maybe I'll keep the idea and do a fun album later. But right now it's not working. And I don't just sit down and write a song. I can do that if I've got a title to work for. I can make up a story, and I've done that before. But the last album had 14 songs, and 10 of them were written over a 2-year period, and 4 of them were written over the last 2 months. Because once I'm in the studio, then it's like, okay, I've got the guys here, and I've got these ideas. Let me see if I can take all my ideas and let me see if I can. And of course, the producer's always saying, 14 songs, 12 is enough. You're just giving them 2 more songs. I said, you don't understand. I'm not going to put out an album for another 2 years. I don't want to sit on 2 songs for another couple of years. I want them to hear them now. I want them to hear. In fact, Big Coconut, the song Big Coconut was the last song I wrote and I had been writing it, and we recorded it on the final day of making that album, and it ended up being the title of the album. The song was so strong, and you can hear us all having fun in there, especially if you get the Island Party, which is a compilation, and it's got the a cappella version that we were doing at the beginning. You can hear that we were just having so much fun with that. Now, I have to tell you, if anybody gets signed to a record contract, it'll probably be Kelly McGuire. If a major record was looking, that would probably be the one. And the reason is because Kelly's got the band that he travels with, and Kelly is just such a hard worker. And he has just worked that state of Texas and been the Independent Music of the Year. I mean, he's got a real commercial sound. I think he's got the time and the willingness to work it. Not that I wouldn't do it, but I'm doing well. The records are selling, and I've got 9 of them out. And I know I had a lot of calls from a lot of people, marketing and people wanting to manage me. After I was advertised being the headline entertainment for the Capital One Bowl on ABC this past New Year's Day. And then also on Sirius Satellite when the Vacation Channel was running. I was the second most played artist behind Jimmy on that station. And so people are calling me, telling me what they can do for me. And I said, well, what can you do for me? I mean, can you get me a gig to play for 17 million people on TV, 65,000 people live? Can you get, what can you do? So, and to me, I was in the Navy 21 years, and basically I had people telling me, what to wear, how to cut my hair, where to be. And signing a record deal with somebody. I own the publishing, the copyright, the record label, and I own everything. And the only thing I would probably do is let some young kid that's willing to work hard, sing one of my songs. But other than that, you sign a record deal and you've got somebody telling you what to wear, how to cut your hair, where to be, and then you have to sign over so much. All your creativity that you do from that point on is going to be signed over. And not that I mind that, and I probably would entertain one, but I would probably have a lot of stipulations. But right now, I'm just happy doing it myself and, having fun with it, and it's successful. And so, and I wish, I really think, though, the Spot Rock thing, I've been seeing so many radio stations doing this and a lot of island shows that if, I think that there probably will be a category at the Grammys for it one day. No, I do.
Yeah.
My goal is then to win a Grammy, and I said, well, they said, that's a high goal. I said, yeah, but if I don't reach it trying to, I should hit a lot. I should have a lot of first down trying to hit it. So, and I can see that. And, the radio stations that are playing more and more of it, and more people are doing island shows. And, I can see it, I'd like to see a section at Walmart. That would be a great deal.
So when you're not doing the music, I was just wondering, what do you do when you're not doing the business related to the music?
Well, I don't do anything else. I don't work any other job. I have to say that, January, because of Capital One Bowl, was my busiest month ever on sales on my website, Amazon.com, CD Baby, all the others, radio, airplay, royalties, everything was, and digital download, and that says a lot, because you get a, email every Monday saying, this much has been deposited to your account, and, I think, the 99 cents, you look and say, my gosh, 4 or 500 people a week are downloading the songs on Yahoo and iTunes. Like, who are these people? Why don't they come? Why don't they buy the CD? And that's why I try to make my CDs really nice too, with all the lyrics and the pictures and all. Because when people buy it, product, they just don't want to just put it out. There's the CD. You got to give them something to look at and read a little bit about you. But it's great, and I really don't do anything else now. I have been busy. I've been really busy because I do all the business aspect of it. I have a marketing director, and they do some, but I do most of that stuff. I try to stay as personal as I can with the people that are buying, and I'm filling up my March and April schedule. Most of it's private gigs now. Of course, in May, Memorial Weekend through Labor Day weekend, I'm playing Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, every night in Panama City Beach. So, just filling up. So when I'm not doing the records, I'm actually playing, writing, but I spend a lot of time at home and doing nothing. Me and my wife, we go out and eat a lot. I spend most of my nights off going around and listening to other musicians and seeing what's on the beach and seeing what songs people are responding to. If it's a new song, that I might want to learn, if people are responding a certain way. So I guess it's all business, but to me, it's fun.
Yeah.
You find a job you love, you never work a day in your life. But writing and producing the music and playing, that is the only thing I do. And last month, it actually balanced out with the performance as well as the CD sales, balanced out. But during the winter, it's things slow down. But playing the Capital One Boys really made a difference because January was my biggest month and February is good. So, that was a lot of exposure. 17 people, and the football program is a really nice program. It's like a Cosmopolitan magazine, glossy, full color, about 150 pages, and I'm right on the middle 2 pages, talking about me. So hopefully those people that didn't pay attention or were getting a hot dog, they took it home and, browsed through their book. And so, I think to check the guy out. So, that's been good for this winter. It really has. And I hope to carry that into the summer and on to other gigs.
So how long have you been married?
Since July.
Since July?
Yep.
Yeah, because I remember, I think it was like a couple years ago when I wrote that piece on you. I asked you if you were married, and you said no.
Nope. My wife actually, she's from Southern Alabama, actually lives about 100 miles, almost due west of my where my mom lives in Southwest Georgia, and both our dads are dead, and our moms have really got along well together. And she actually retired in August from teaching at Galt College in Alabama. She retired, and now she's teaching part-time at the college here. And that has made a difference, too, because, she was retired. We got married in July, and we retired on August 8th. 24 hours a day, we were together, and we loved it. But I wasn't getting any work done during the day. We would get up, we'd go to the gym, and we'd go to the beach, and we'd go have some lunch somewhere. And that's all we did. And now, basically, on those 3 days of the week that she works, that's when I can really sit down at the computer and do some writing and do some, just get all the emails checked. So basically, get a little bit of business done.
So just out of curiosity, how did you meet her?
Actually, at a restaurant where I was playing, but I was done. This was like spring before last. So this spring is 2 years. I was already done, but my equipment was set up, and I was there, and her and 2 of her other friends, and I think they all went to college together, but one worked at the college with her, and another was a guy that counseled at high school down in Stillwater. They were all on spring break together, and they came walking through, and so I just held the door open. I was there at the counter getting myself a drink, or at the bar, and I opened the door of the restaurant, and the first 2 came by, and when she came out that door, she looked at me and she goes, "How are you?" And I just looked at her and I said, "I'm fine now." I did. I told her that. As a matter of fact, if you listen to A Lady and a Dancer on the new CD, in fact, she's the one that really liked that shag dancing.
Yeah.
And so that's why the CD incorporates that. And if you listen to the song or look at the lyrics, The Lady and the Dancer, there's a line in there that says, that talks about, she said, "How are you?" And I said, "I'm fine now." And that's one of the verses. But actually, and here's the deal. She says, "Hey, who's playing music?" And somebody pointed to me and said, "He is." And she says, "Are you done?" Well, I have to say, it's kind of like I fibbed the first time because I said, "No, I'm not." But then since I'm my boss, it's not a fib because I can determine when I'm done. And I said, "No, I'm not." And she says, "Well, can me and my friends sing Mustang Sally with you?" And I said, "Absolutely." So, and that's still one of her favorite songs. And so they all got up there and sang. And luckily, she could sing. The other two, in case they're listening,
they were good.
Yeah, they were good. Yeah. Listen, I'll let Simon Cowell comment on that later. But and I think in fact, I played 2 or 3 more songs, and then basically we just sat around and talked a little bit. But she was with her girlfriend, so I gave her a CD because I'm thinking, well, she'll see I wrote these songs, and that way when she's away, I can be working on it. She'll say, "Oh, this is the kind of guy he is." Okay. So she came out, and I thought we were just a little bit said goodbye, and then she said she was going to be back the next month, but it was actually about 2 or 3 months later that she called, and we met, and then she had a place at the beach, and I had it for 8 years, and she'd come down once a month, and then she started come down every other weekend, and then pretty soon, every weekend, she'd come down, and I was playing at the time, but we spent the time together, and then as last winter approached, I wasn't playing so much. We would spend a lot of the weekends together. And she said that she was about ready to retire, and she had been wanting to move to the beach since she was a little girl. Her dad had been bringing her here, and you will see that. That's the first song I wrote about her on the new album. It's called "Forever on the Emerald Coast," and it's about her growing up on the beach. And I made it, generic enough. So it's a little girl, but it's generic enough that anybody that has longed to come to the beach and have been coming for years on weekends, and then they finally make it to the beach or wherever they've always wanted to live. That's what the song is about. So that was the first song I wrote about her, actually. So, and it wasn't a love song. It was basically about her life and her desire. And then, of course, we got married in July, and I wrote a couple other songs. And so I said, well, I need to wrap this up. At the end of the year in November, studio and wrapped up the album and got it printed, got it out. So anyway, we're happy as a clam.
Excellent. It was amore.
Yeah, well, all you got to do is listen to the song "The Lady and the Dancer." It's called "Dancing on the Beach" is the album. "The Lady and the Dancer," that's her. And
I see.
She really put a change in. She put a step in my groove, as Rob Thomas would say. Put a step in my groove. But she brought a little different angle, because Vacation, I noticed her doing a little bit of that doo-wop kind of feel to some of the songs, and a little bit of retro sound, and keeping it full of reggae and calypso and things. But this one I was like, well, I don't want to do that again. But the stag dancing is that basically it is that kind of doo-wop sound. But it's just the shag music. I looked it up on the computer. The beach for a minute, the styles, and of course I'm playing the jazzy. It came out nice. Of course she was pleased. I think there's 4 or 5 songs on there about her, so she's pleased. All right, I'm on my last Landshark beer. What are you drinking?
Well, I think we're running out here, but
I'm on my last one.
So
I had a 6-pack, but the wife drank 5, so I only drank 1.
One more question for you.
Where did I learn to talk so much?
Well, I'm going to be fumbling through the fridge for another Landshark, but before it runs out, I'm sure we'll have enough time for one question, I hope. My last question, since this program goes out all over the world and there'll be people everywhere listening, what would you, Gene Mitchell, like to say to the world?
Go to the beach, have a good time, or wherever you want to relax. Don't wait to the rest of your life wanting to do something. A lot of people down in Florida, wait until they can barely move to finally come down and do what they've always wanted to do. If you can't do it permanently, put away 10 or 15% of your income and go on vacation and do it often. And when you go, do what you want to do. And if you're out there looking for a mate, make sure they like to do that too, because that comes in handy.
Well, I do appreciate you taking the time to give us an interview, and I wish you the best of luck with your coconut girl. So thank you so much to the Big Coconut.
All right. I appreciate it.
I hope we can break bread in person sometime, either in Atlanta or down in Florida.
I'll buy you a land shark here.
All right.
Or maybe 2 or 3.
All right. Well, Gene, you just have a great night, and I will work on finishing off my land sharks, and you do the same.
I'll do it.
Have a good night.
What did I say? Now you're cruising with the big fin.
All right. We'll see you later.
Okay.
Bye.
Thanks, Paul.
See you.
We thank you and appreciate you dropping in for the Paul Leslie Hour today. You know, you can help the Paul Leslie Hour in our mission to provide independent media content like this by visiting www.thepaulleslie.com/support. We truly thank you. This is your announcer speaking. Performance of The Entertainer intro song and Corina Corina outro song, courtesy of John Primorano. Well, that's it for today. So until next time, be safe and be good.